There was the call for the young men, as we know, with the advertising and stuff like that, that was out at that particular time with all those campaign posters. As the war went on, I suppose women and older people probably became more prevalent in how business was run within the community and the farms were operated.
The women were the ones who made the jam, knitted the socks, kept the whole thing happening, you know, worked where they hadn't previously, which gave them a great deal of independence when the war was over, which they didn't like to give back. But, you know, mail deliveries, teaching, everything, nurses, you know, all had to fill in. And so it was pretty tough going, and you have to admire their spirit, because a lot of small places could have just died there and then, and they didn't. They kept going, and you know, a bit biased I suppose, but I really think women probably took the reins and went with it.
My grandmother, and she was born in 1900, so she was from 14 to 18 years of age during the First World War, and she told me she used to have to go out and plough the paddocks with bullocks, and at 70 odd she could still crack the stock whip.
I think a lot of the work was left just to the families that were left there, and they took on whatever job they had to.
Had to be very resilient and very creative probably to keep the whole thing together.
They used to have benefits, they were called. They'd have a concert to raise money, then to send stuff over to the troops. And they were big. Like, a lot of women did the organising for that.
The community would get together, make up parcels, they'd bake cakes, there'd be fruit cakes with spirits in it to preserve them when they went over.
You'd make cakes, and then it was willow tin, and they'd wrap it all with calico and sew it. Anzac biscuits were made and sent over.
Writing letters to different members of the forces overseas was highly encouraged.
It was just a different way of life. You just had to change to the situation as it was then. There was no rhyme or reason for doing things. It just got done.
I suppose with the women taking charge, it would have been very difficult for those men to come back, and they were pretty broken men. You know, what they had seen would have changed their perspective of life. And having to come back into this place of normacy, you know, like everyone was normal here, like it would have been so different after what they saw over there to be able to fit, you know, and a lot of them didn't.
The strain would have been enormous for a woman in that time.
Community would have become closer in a lot of ways and supported each other, especially when the reports of losing family members became more and more regular. They would have been there for each other. They would have had to have been. It was all exciting to start off with. You know, they had parties at the halls and things like that in the local areas before that, you know, when they were sending people away initially. But I think after a while that would have changed, and the communities would have been drawn closer and closer together, and I suppose you would have seen the kindness of people a lot more.
When they came back, I think then we started to build Australia better. We'd been you know, a federation since, you know, for well 20 years. So then was the time to start, building and making it our country.